Shun Miao, the legitimate daughter of the general's house, a young girl utterly infatuated with Prince Ding. Others marry for love. She married for too much love. For him, she did not fear death, willingly becoming a hostage in a foreign land. She thought she would live a life of marital bliss. But who would have known that before she could even taste happiness upon her return, she would find her home in ruins and her young children tragically dead? The Shun family, once a prestigious and noble clan, was reduced to ashes in an instant. In the end, she was even sent to meet her ancestors by her two beloved cousins. The heavens have eyes, granting her rebirth back to the age of 14, before any tragedy had begun. In this life, Shun Miao rolls up her sleeves, determined to change her fate. The family clan must be protected, and scores must be settled with her enemies. She might as well take the empire to complete the set. As for Prince Ding, she'll deal with him slowly. Old matters are not yet finished, and new ones have already arrived. Let's see how Shun Miao takes the world by storm and leads her entire family to the pinnacle. In the early summer sky, heavy rains poured down and thunder rumbled, tearing the sky apart. Thick, dark clouds gathered above the magnificent, towering palace buildings, gloomily heralding the approaching storm. Rainwater cascaded violently from the rooftops like a waterfall. In the spacious room, clothes and jewelry were scattered about, as if a life-and-death struggle had just taken place. A woman knelt on the ground, and before her was Eunuch Li. He held a length of white silk, his voice tinged with impatience. "Your Highness, this servant must still report back to His Majesty." He raised his head high and emphasized, "Please proceed." Empress Shun Miao's face darkened. She was silent for a long moment before slowly opening her mouth, her voice hoarse and chaotic. "Little Li Zi, before this palace promoted you, you were just a dog next to Eunuch Gao." Eunuch Li replied arrogantly, "Your Highness, things are different now." She looked up, crestfallen, and murmured, "Things are different now?" Suddenly, she laughed as if she had gone mad. "Ha ha, what a good line. Things are different now." Suddenly, a hand pushed the door open. The sound of clattering footsteps broke the tense atmosphere. An authoritative voice rang out. "In consideration of you having served us for 20 years, we grant you an intact corpse. Why don't you hurry up and express your gratitude?" Shun Miao lowered her head, asking softly, "Why?" Emperor Fu Xiui stood there, high and mighty, not answering her. Shun Miao slowly raised her head to question him. "You ascended the throne with the help of my Shun family. You wanted to win over the great ministers. I knelt and begged them to support you. When you went on military expeditions and the Xiongnu invaded, I wrote letters of surrender on your behalf." She grabbed the hem of the emperor's robe, looking at him with a resentful gaze, and said, "Fu Xiui, consort may want you to marry out, so you issued an edict. Wanyu was only 16 when she died of illness. You doted on Fu Sheng and were cold to Fu Ming. The entire court knows it. Now you have exterminated my entire family. As I am about to die, I just want to ask you one question. Why?" He frowned, his expression unwavering as he replied. When the imperial father was still alive, he already had intentions of dealing with the great aristocratic families. The Shun family's achievements were so high, they overshadowed the master. They could not be kept for long. It was I who advised the imperial father to keep the Shun family for another 20 years. That was already the greatest grace. Hearing this, tears streamed down Shun Miao's face. She sneered contemptuously. "Haha, greatest grace?" She looked at him, tried to ask word by word. "Why did you have to keep the Shun family?" She exposed his conspiracy and continued. "It wasn't because you were merciful, nor was it because you were bestowing a favor. You just wanted to use the Shun family's military power to consolidate your position in the fight for the throne. When the cunning rabbit dies, the hunting dog is cooked. Once the empire was settled, you burned the bridge after crossing it. Fu Xiui, you're truly ruthless." He roared, "Shun Miao," then slapped her so hard that blood splattered. In just a moment, he turned and left, not forgetting to instruct, "Fend for yourself." Shun Miao lay on the cold floor, her hands clenched into fists. A moment later, she spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. A gentle voice sounded, "Elder sister, what's wrong? You look truly pathetic." A woman dressed in light yellow robes, her face like a hibiscus flower, her waist as slender as a willow, her figure as beautiful as a celestial fairy. Every gesture was breathtakingly beautiful, and she approached with sincerity. This was the favored Consort Mei, who had fought with Shun Miao her entire life. Behind Consort Mei were two neatly dressed, delicate-looking women. women. Shun Miao was stunned. Shun Qing, Shun Yu, why are the two of them in the palace? The third young lady of the Shun family, Shun Yu, covered her mouth and smiled smugly. A few years ago, fifth younger sister loved to play matchmaker for us sisters. Now, there's no need. His Majesty treats my sister and me very well. Hearing this, Shun Miao's heart trembled violently. It seemed she understood many things clearly now. Her voice was filled with disbelief. You delayed your marriages. Was it for today? Standing next to her was the second young lady of the Shun family, Shun Qing. She stepped forward and said, of course. That year, His Majesty made a pact with my father and third uncle. As long as they could persuade you to marry His Majesty, my sister and I would also have such a destiny. As if afraid Shun Miao hadn't heard clearly, she continued to boast with emphasis. His Majesty is handsome and elegant. My sister and I have admired him for a long time. It's just a pity that first uncle held such high power and position, so we could only let fifth younger sister take the first step. Suddenly, Shun Miao angrily questioned in a loud voice. Shun Qing, the Shun family has clearly been confiscated. How can you two still be in the palace? Second consort, third consort, how can you two live peacefully in this palace? She covered her mouth and burst into laughter. Of course, it's because we are great meritorious subjects. The evidence of first uncle's rebellion was provided by the two of us, who righteously sacrificed our family for justice and stood up to testify. Shun Miao looked at her two cousins in horror and said, are you insane? When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. How can you still be safe and sound? Fu Shui wanted to deal with the Shun family, and you framed your own family members. She pinched her face and let out a cold laugh. Family? Fifth younger sister, we never considered the first branch as family. Now the crown prince is dead, the princess is gone, and the Shun family is destroyed. You'd best go down to the Yellow Springs soon too, to reunite with them. Consort May sincerely stepped forward and called out twice, elder sister. She smirked sinisterly and said, the empire is stable now, you should abdicate. Shun Miao felt a chill. After fighting for 10 years, she had ultimately lost completely, lost miserably, lost to the point of death and the destruction of her clan, lost in a way that made her a laughingstock for the entire world. She struggled to her feet, staggering. Gritting her teeth, she glared at those who had harmed her. Consort May turned her gaze to him and ordered, Eunuch Lee, do it. His stout figure immediately took a few steps forward. Yes. Eunuch Lee forcefully tightened the white silk around her neck. She gasped and struggled, in excruciating pain. Silently in her heart, Lapdoi, the imperial mother, my son, my daughter, my parents, my brothers, Chow Chow. If you don't come back, I'll eat your snacks. My sisters and friends, young Miss, Jingzhe, Bailu, Shuang Jiang Guyu. Her face was now deathly pale. She told herself, everyone in the Shun family has been murdered. Those who harm my loved ones. If there's a next life, a blood debt must be paid with blood. Time will eventually come to an end. Let me end with you in oblivion. The courtyard was paved with alternating black and white stone slabs. After the night's rain, large, glistening raindrops like pearls fell from the banana leaves and soaked into the earth. In the room, on the purple gold table, an incense burner released wisps of shuemu incense. Beside the large, soft bed, two tall, slender maids carefully fanned the person lying on it. Shun Miao's maid, Jingzhe, said, Guyu, it's been over an hour. Why hasn't the physician arrived yet? Next to her was Shun Miao's other maid, Guyu. Her face filled with unconcealable anxiety. She replied, Bai Lu and Shuang Jiang went to find the physician and haven't returned. Could they have been stopped by someone? This won't do. I have to go and see. As soon as she finished speaking, a faint sound came from the bed. Jingzhe cried out in alarm and rushed to the bedside. Young Miss is awake, Shun Miao said weakly. Ah. Jingzhe happily took Shun Miao's hand. This servant is here. Guyu brought a cup of tea and asked, Young Miss, would you like to drink some water? She looked at the two people before her in a daze. After a moment, she gave a bitter smile and shed tears, saying, This hallucination before death is too real. Guyu asked in alarm, Young Miss, what are you saying? Could it be that the fever has made you delirious? She placed her hand on Shun Miao's forehead. The feeling of the hand on her forehead was cool, comfortable, and real. She stared wide-eyed in shock, her gaze suddenly sharp. Shun Miao slowly lowered her head and looked at her own hands. They were a pair of slender, fair hands, with neatly trimmed nails, soft and lovely. She thought in confusion, "These are not my hands. I followed Fu Xiui to handle court affairs and wash clothes in the cold palace. How could I have such soft hands?" She sat up, her voice weak as she said, "Bring me a mirror." Jingzhe and Guyu looked at each other. In the end, it was Guyu who brought a mirror to Shen Miao. She stared in astonishment at the mirror. The girl had a round face, a full forehead, a pair of large, slightly red eyes, a smooth nose, and a small mouth. It was a face that had not yet shed its youthful appearance. The mirror in Shen Miao's hand suddenly fell to the ground. She touched her face, and 2 streams of hot tears rolled down. Her gaze became sharp, and she thought to herself, "The heavens do not fail those who persevere. The heavens have not failed me. I have." Shen Miao hurriedly asked, "What year is it now?" and heard the reply, "The 68th year of Ming Qi." "Young miss, why are you crying? Are you not feeling well?" She kept muttering this time, as if delirious. The 68th year of Ming Qi. The 68th year of Ming Qi. It turned out that this period was the root of all her troubles. She remembered, "It was the year I turned 14, the year I met and became infatuated with Fu Xiui. This was the year I forced my father to marry me to Fu Xiui. In my previous life, most of my time was spent running around for Fu Xiui. Seeing her in such a daze, coupled with her strange behavior upon waking, the maids couldn't help but worry even more. Has the young miss become delirious from the fever? They even momentarily lost their restraint and boldly judged their master. The eldest young miss is truly heartless. Isn't this pushing our young miss to her death? And the story they were talking about was also a major milestone at that time. From it, she deduced all the events that were happening until her rebirth. That's why I remember every detail related to him so clearly. Shen Xing told me that Fu Xiui would come to the Shan residence to visit second uncle and third uncle, then dragged me along to hide in the flower garden to peek. But when we got to the flower garden, Shen Xing pushed me off the rockery. The news of my infatuation with Prince Ding had already spread throughout the capital half a year ago, so the officials present at the time just saw it as a joke from the Shen residence. She tried to rack her brain to recall her family tree. The Shen family has 3 branches. The first branch, Shen Xn, is my father, also the son of the old general's official wife. Or it could be diagrammed more specifically as follows. First is the old general, then the official wife, the second wife, and then respectively the first branch Shen Xn, the second branch Xingui, and the third branch Shenwan. However, that is according to the family tree. In reality, as she understood it, after the official wife died, the old general married a second wife and had the second branch Shengei and the third branch Shenwan. After the old general passed away, the second wife became the current old madam. The Shen family has fought on battlefields for generations, and now only Shen Xin holds military power. The second and third branches, on the other hand, followed the path of civil officials. Because my mother, Madame Shen, also followed my father to the battlefield, I stayed in the Shen residence and was directly taught by the old madam and my 2 aunts. What kind of teaching turned me into an uneducated, unskilled person who lost all sense of shame and threw herself at men like a fool? That was my entire childhood growing up in the Shun family back then. Recalling it all, her eyes suddenly became sharp. She thought, in my past life, I was naive enough to think that my elder sisters and the old madam treated me very well. In this life, I want to see if those people still have the face to pull the same old tricks again. Suddenly, a voice announced, "Young miss, the second young miss has come to visit you." These words made her personal maid, Jingzhe, angry on her behalf. Coming at this time, the young miss hasn't fully recovered. Aren't they afraid she'll catch a chill? Just then, Shen Yu arrived demurely to visit the sick, apologizing as she came. "Fifth younger sister, is your body feeling any better? I heard you fell into the water, and I've been worried sick. I only dared to visit today after hearing you'd woken up. Eldest sister made a mistake that day. I hope fifth younger sister can forgive her. She didn't mean to make you lose face in front of His Highness Prince Ding." These little tricks were nothing to her now. She frowned in annoyance and thought, here we go again, using the excuse of asking for forgiveness to secretly stir up enmity between me and Shinqing. She replied indifferently. Second elder sister is exaggerating. This matter had nothing to do with eldest sister. This was exactly the same as in her memory. In her previous life, it was the same. Because Shun Yu mentioned Prince Ding, it made me fly into a rage and run to the old madam. The old madam, of course, favored the second and third branches. Shun Yu looked at her in shock. This Shun Miao? The result was predictable without saying. She politely took the blame on herself. I fell into the water by myself. Hearing this, she was momentarily flustered. Why? Why when facing Shun Miao do I feel an indescribable fear? It seems the person before me is no longer a foolish, naive girl, but someone completely different. Her goal not yet achieved. She continued to provoke. Fifth younger sister, there's no need to force yourself to endure it. She remained as magnanimous as ever, replying, I'm not forcing myself to endure anything. It's just a small matter. I want to rest a little more. We can talk about anything tomorrow. Finally, she found an excuse to withdraw to prevent the conversation from dragging on. When the room became quiet again, Gu Yu said bluntly, the one who was pushed into the water was our young miss. Yet she comes to ask for forgiveness for the eldest young miss. Asking for forgiveness is one thing, but why does it sound like that's not what it is? She then explained, when the snipe and the clam grapple, the fisherman profits. I'm afraid she wants to be the fisherman. In her heart, she silently added the main reason. Why would Xinyu want to drive a wedge between me and Shinqing? It's simply because she is also infatuated with Prince Ding. A reason so simple, yet she only realized it at the end of her previous life. The third young lady of the Shun family, Shun Yu. The second young lady of the Shun family, Shun Qing. You delayed your marriages. Was it for today? And now, she swore that if you are all infatuated with Fu Xiui in this life, I will definitely not let you have your wish. Wouldn't that be a great pity? The second and third branches owed the Shun family a blood debt from the previous life. From now on, let's start paying it back. Just then, Jingzhi rushed in to announce, Young Miss, the Yongjing residence has summoned you. Gu Yu quickly said, the young miss has just woken up. Her body has not yet recovered. On the contrary, she got out of bed, click. Let's go. Arriving at Yongjing residence, the old madam's quarters. Everyone had already arrived, and the atmosphere was very harmonious. The maid Shi'er respectfully announced, the fifth young miss has arrived. For the matriarch of the Shun family, that is, the old Madam Shun. Xinyu said sarcastically, fifth younger sister is late. Seventh younger brother is about to finish all the steamed milk with rock sugar. She easily deflected, my body hasn't fully recovered. I rested for a while on the way, so I was late. They could only remain silent as the grave. Each one frowned as they looked at her. Obviously, they couldn't find fault. She had already thought of this. If Shun, you want to say, I was putting on airs, I wouldn't mind pointing out that you all disregarded my health and hastily summoned me. To pay respects, she reluctantly asked, is there any problem with your body? She replied politely, no, thank you for your concern. And suddenly, she slammed the chair, startling Shun Yuanbua, you unfilial thing. Kneel down. She protested, grandmother, fifth niece doesn't know where I went wrong. The eldest son of the second branch of the Shun family, Shun Yuanbua, burst into tears. The second madam of the Shun family, Ren Wanyun, comforted him, seventh brother, don't cry anymore. On the other hand, she lectured, fifth niece, are you crazy? Who taught you to talk back to your elders? Taking the opportunity, she criticized, you fool, so young yet you have no sense of shame, secretly peeking at His Highness Prince Ding, causing our Shun residents to lose all face. She asked vaguely, secretly peeking at His Highness Prince Ding? Xinyu chimed in, fifth younger sister, you fell into the water while secretly peeking at His Highness Prince Ding. You really made the Shun residents lose all face. You should find a chance to apologize. She began her counterattack. What is this about admiring His Highness Prince Ding? Such words cannot be spoken carelessly. I, your fifth niece, have now reached marriageable age. Saying such things will ruin my reputation. She sneered, fifth younger sister, we are all family here. What is there to hide about these things? She glared at her and said solemnly, second elder sister, be careful. Disaster comes from the mouth. His Highness Prince Ding has a noble status. We are a prestigious family, and we must be even more careful with our words. Faced with her aura, Shun Yu was stunned into silence. she continued to defend herself. In the past, fifth niece was young and may have done some things that could easily cause misunderstandings. But from now on, fifth niece will definitely be careful in her words and actions. I hope everyone will not bring this up again. Once again, the scene fell into contemplation. From old to young, they looked at her with frowns. The third madam of the Shun family, Chinruachio, spoke up to smooth things over, while also setting a new trap for her. Whether you love him or not can't be clarified with just a single sentence from fifth niece. After all, a young girl's heart is hard to guess, but fifth niece listened to third aunt's advice. His Highness Prince Ding has a noble status. No matter what, you should go and apologize. The old madam took a sip of tea and also chimed in. That's right, send a card to the Prince Ding residence tomorrow and go apologize in person. It wasn't hard for Shin Miao to see through their dark intentions. I am the legitimate daughter of a military general's family. On what grounds must I personally go to apologize to a prince? Wouldn't doing so further prove that I was secretly peeking at Prince Ding? Tomorrow, the capital will have another joke to laugh about. Of course, she also had a way to respond. She changed the subject and asked, "Eldest sister, when I fell into the water, only you were by my side. Did you also see His Highness Prince Ding?" Shen Qing replied smugly, "I saw him." She had thought that she would say, "I pushed her into the water." But the old madam would definitely favor me. As long as I insisted on denying it, the liar would be Shan Miao, and she would surely be disliked. Her mind could only think that far, and so she was caught by her, rendered speechless. Then that's right. That day, eldest sister and I were playing by the lake, and I accidentally fell into the water. As for His Highness Prince Ding, he just happened to be passing by the Shun residence and dropped in to ask second uncle for a painting. If you say I was secretly peeking at His Highness Prince Ding, then where did I get the news from? Finally, she slowly added an absurd statement for them to figure out themselves. Could it be that I can predict the future? She became angry, about to curse furiously you, but was immediately cut off by Run Wanyun's stern voice, eldest sister. Then she put down the now pacified Shen Yuanbua, conceding, "Fifth younger sister has a point, it was just a misunderstanding. Besides, His Highness Prince Ding is magnanimous and will surely not mind the mischief of children." Just then, Chen Ruachio slithered over, speaking affectionately. "That's right, Chinger, don't mention this matter again in the future. It was just that fifth younger sister was not careful and fell into the water, and His Highness Prince Ding just happened to see it. Fifth younger sister, the old madam only loves you. She's not really angry with you." She replied understandingly, "I understand." Now, third aunt also sees that fifth younger sister was not at fault, right? She thought, as expected, there are too many smart people in this residence. How could they not hear the hidden meaning in that? In the end, her surest strategy at the moment was to rely on the chaotic times and the precarious life of the Shin family. She thought, what the emperor is most wary of now is a minister and a prince being too close. If I send a special invitation, then what would we be discussing? The matter of establishing a crown prince? Even if Fu Xiui only happened to visit the Shun residence because he remembered a previous bet with Shun Gui and came to collect the promised painting, the world has thousands upon thousands of years. Who knows if the Shun residence has the emperor's spies planted in it? If this news is heard, who knows how it will be interpreted? If they want to trample on my honor, then I will put the heads of Shun Gui and Shun One on the line. It's easy to say, but I don't know if second aunt and third aunt understand. With two plans failed, she couldn't let it go so easily. She took her hand again and said with concern, "Even so, but fifth younger sister falling into the lake was really too careless. How are the maids by your side taking care of you? First brother and first sister-in-law are not here, and they dare to be disrespectful to their master. It's best to replace all these maids." Hearing the whole thing, Rin Wanyun couldn't help but laugh. She thought to herself, Chen Ruachio is indeed a cunning one, now that Shen Yu has also reached the age to consider marriage. No matter how foolish or weak Shen Miao's reputation is, Shen Yu's status still cannot compare to hers, because Shen Xin holds military power after all. In the courtyard, almost all the maids and servants have been replaced by me. If I also change those close maids, she thought slyly. After hearing this, she pulled her hand back, feigning weakness, and said honestly, the staff in the West Courtyard has changed quite a bit now. A new group of second-rank maids just arrived a few days ago. I don't know any of them. If you also replace Gu Yu and the other maids my parents left for me, who can I confide in this West Courtyard? Rin Wanyun, who was behind, was startled upon hearing this and quickly forced a smile, saying, "Your third aunt is just joking with you." Gu Yu and the other girls were just careless and negligent. Our Shin family has always been kind and doesn't do such heartless things. Little fifth, you don't need to worry. Then she glared at Chinruachio. She thought angrily. Shun Miao's meaning is already very clear. The legitimate daughter of the first branch doesn't know a single servant in her own courtyard. If outsiders were to hear this, they would surely criticize the second and third branches for having malicious intentions. She waved her hand tiredly. All right, everyone is dismissed. They replied in unison, yes, and then went their separate ways. Chinruachio keenly noticed the difference. She had never known how to dress before, always rustic and clumsy. But now, it was clearly the same face, yet felt much more solemn, even possessing a hint of majesty. Outside, Gu Yu asked with concern, "Young miss, your body hasn't fully recovered yet. Why must you rush to Guangwen Hall?" She refused decisively. "No, we must prepare the carriage for tomorrow." The next day, at Guangwen Hall, Shen Qing asked casually, "Why don't I see Shen Miao today?" She followed along and replied nonchalantly, "She probably doesn't have the face to come anymore. I heard she fell into the water while secretly peeking at His Highness Prince Ding." She immediately explained, like a good elder sister hiding the bad and showing the good, "Pailon, it's not like that." Shen Yu's friend, Yi Pailon, immediately spoke up in her defense. "You're always too protective of her. A fool like that is not at all like a daughter of the Shun family." Shen Qing's friend, Jiang Kai-Xian, was even more excessive, saying, "I think it's because General Shun and Madam Shun are not around, so her upbringing was neglected. She doesn't even know propriety or shame." Her intention achieved, she continued to add fuel to the fire. "That's not right. Even though first uncle and first aunt are not in the capital, my mother and second aunt often teach her. They have never been negligent." Ipalon continued sarcastically, "Then that's strange. Chinger, you are all so outstanding, yet Shun Miao is a world apart." Suddenly, someone pointed and exclaimed, "Look, Shun Miao is here." She stepped off the horse in her green shoes, approaching from a distance in a beautiful outfit with a dignified air. Her face was now cold, devoid of its former foolishness. Ipalon nudged Shinyu. Could your younger sister have fallen ill and become confused? She usually only knows how to wear gold and silver, but today, she's like a different person. Just as she was about to speak, Jiang Kai-Xian next to her spoke first. "Shin Miao, I heard you fell into the water. How are you? Is your cold gone now?" These words were truly awkward for others. If it were a normal day, Shin Miao would surely have looked to Shinyu for help. But today, she just gave Jiang Kai-Xian a disdainful glance and said indifferently, "I've recovered. Thank you for your concern." She found her attitude extremely unsightly and immediately said, "If you've already recovered, shouldn't the first thing be to apologize to His Highness Prince Ding instead of running to the academy? Isn't that a bit out of order?" Just as she was about to speak, she heard Shinyu say, "His Highness Prince Ding surely wouldn't blame her for such a small matter." Fifth sister came to the academy, of course, because she is eager to learn. Suddenly, a young man appeared from a distance, mocking, "Eager to learn? Shinyu, if you want to speak up for this sister of yours, you don't need to use such words. She can't even read the essays from the national teacher. Isn't it ridiculous to say she's eager to learn?" The eldest young master of the Kai family, Kai Lin, maliciously sized up Shin Miao and continued, "Besides, who knows if she fell into the water on purpose, wanting to play the hero saving the damsel, then repaying with her body, only to miscalculate the outcome." After saying this, he seemed to find it amusing himself and burst out laughing. He was the leader of the young men, and as soon as he spoke, the group of youths around him also roared with laughter. She thought Kai Lin, he was undoubtedly the ringleader of these children of powerful families. In her past life, she had heard countless such harsh words, but compared to the final tragedy, these taunts were nothing. These children of officials, and I originally I had no grudges. It was only because of incitement that we became adversaries. Looking at your expression, you seem a bit unconvinced. It must be because I hit a nerve, and you don't know how to refute it. There's no need to turn allies into enemies. If you make an enemy just because of a little pride, it's not worth it. After everyone had laughed enough, Shun Miao suddenly opened her mouth and asked, Kai Lin, who told you that I fell into the water because I was infatuated with His Highness Prince Ding? He asked softly, weren't you? She suddenly let out a soft laugh, looked at Shun Yu and Shun Qing, and said, eldest sister, second sister, it's one thing for others not to know, but how could even the two of you not know? Why not say a word to defend me? The two of them were startled at the same time. Shun Qing, after all, knew to consider the bigger picture and immediately said, that's right, don't speak nonsense. I was with fifth sister at the time. Fifth sister just accidentally slipped and fell into the water, and it just so happened that His Highness Prince Ding saw it. It has nothing to do with admiration. On the surface, it was like that, but inwardly she thought with disgust, if Mother hadn't accidentally overheard, who would want to stand up and clear her name. Shun Qing spoke so firmly that although everyone didn't believe it, they couldn't refute it. She opened her mouth and added, to speak so recklessly without seeing it with your own eyes, it seems Guang Wentang needs to teach not only academics, but also character. Besides, the word admiration is originally a beautiful term. Why is it being spoken of in such a distasteful way? Shun Miao, if I were to admire someone, I would do so with pride. She raised her voice and declared to him, His Highness Prince Ding carries the royal bloodline. He is not someone I can aspire to. You are all mistaken. Before her words had faded, a voice of praise rang out. Well said, to admire with pride. Standing at the edge was a young man, about 20 years old, dressed in a simple green robe, with a righteous and proper face. He was the arithmetic teacher of Guang Wentang, Peilang. The man walked over, sighed, and said, very well said. Everyone has the right to their own feelings. They are not something to be ridiculed. Although Guang Wentang is a place of learning, character must also be diligently cultivated. Shun Miao stared intently at him. It was him. She recalled that in her past life, Teacher Pei was just such a gentle and patient person compared to the other strict teachers. He was the one most respected by the students. But besides being a teacher, Pei Lang was also the most trusted strategist of Fu Xiaoyi. Later, when Fu Xiaoyi ascended the throne, he was appointed as the national teacher. As a national teacher, he did his job very well. It's just, Shun Miao and Pei Lang also had some personal connection. The day she was proposed to go to the Qin state as a hostage, it was he who suggested it. At that time, Pei Lang said, for the empress to go to the Qin state as a hostage is all for the sake of Ming Qi's empire. If this trip can help the emperor resolve the immediate crisis, then in the future, the vast lands of Ming Qi will all be under the empress's protective shadow. This world will remember the empress's kindness. And so, she reluctantly set off for the Qin state. However, 5 years after I returned to the palace, another consort Ming appeared in the harem. Those under Pei Lang who once respected me also began to be wary of me everywhere, until I had to kneel and beg him over the matter of deposing the crown prince. But at that time, he just said coldly, Your Majesty, what the emperor has decided, this subject is powerless to change. This is the inevitable course of events, Your Majesty. You should just accept your fate. Shun Miao looked at him with resentful eyes. Accept my fate? If I have to live again only to accept my fate, isn't that too hateful, too tragic? She secretly calculated, right now, at this moment, Fu Xiaoyi is not yet won over Pei Lang. There is still time. In that case, I should sever all possibilities for him to recruit Scholar Pei under his command. He seemed to feel her gaze, a strange sensation that made him shudder. As she studied, she thought, perhaps I should just nip him in the bud. Meanwhile, Pei Lang also observed her actions. How can such a small young lady have such a sharp and murderous gaze? Isn't Shun Miao the most foolish and timid person in Guang Wentang? I must be overthinking things. The boring class finally ended. A young girl ran breathlessly after her. Shun Miao. The voice carried a tone of surprise. Are you possessed by a ghost? The young girl in front of her was the legitimate daughter of official Lu's son, Feng and Ning. She questioned her with some dissatisfaction. Are you deliberately ignoring me? Seeing you study so hard. Could it be to prepare for the examination in a month? Shun Miao frowned. Examination? I've never thought about competing for rankings. What is there for the last place person to compete for? Feng and Ning was a bit stunned. She didn't expect Shun Miao to speak like a grown-up. She sized her up carefully and asked, could it be that you were really hurt so deeply that your personality changed this much? She smiled and replied, that's right. Suddenly, the sound of a startled horse flashed by. Yupei Lan turned her head. What's that sound? Jiang Kai-Xin suggested. Let's go take a look. Shun Miao didn't want to join the commotion, but Feng and Ning grabbed her hand and pulled her along. Let's go see too. Outside, many students had already gathered at the gate upon hearing the noise. Who is that? Who is that? With such a dashing and handsome appearance. He must not be from an ordinary background. At the main gate of Guangwentang was a handsome, dark red horse, its bright coat looking agile. But ultimately, it was not as dazzling as the person on the horse. At this moment, someone recognized him in alarm. Isn't this the young marquis of the Xie family? The young man sat upright on the horse, wearing a black brocade robe and a mink fur cloak. With sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes, his features were extremely handsome. Shun Miao recognized him as the heir of the Marquis of Linen. Xie Jingxing Feng and Ning quietly leaned into Shun Miao's ear and whispered, Young Marquis Xie. It's really young Marquis Xie. This appearance, his reputation is truly well-deserved. Immediately, among the crowd, a girl, disregarding that she was at Guangwentang, boldly threw a handkerchief and a silk flower towards him. The silk flower landed on Xie Jingxing, and he caught it in his hand, a smile playing on his lips. The girl below couldn't help but blush, her small hand patting her heaving chest to calm her heart that was about to burst. Immediately after, his roguish smile vanished in an instant, and the silk flower fluttered gently down. Then it was mercilessly trampled by the horse's hoof. She could only sigh, truly a cold and wicked person. If the generations of Shun family were all honest people who led troops in a battle, then the Xie family, holding a powerful military force, was a mix of everything from the inside out. Even the royal family had to admit their helplessness against the Xie family, because the Xie family was invincible. The Shun family and the Xie family, due to the late emperor's deliberate instigation, always stood in opposition, controlling and balancing each other to achieve stability in the court. In terms of political views, Shin Xin and Xie Ding also had disagreements. Xie Jingxing's mother died early. Perhaps out of pity for his son, Xie Ding doted on him even more since he was a child, despite his lawless personality. Xie Jingxing was still a handsome man skilled in both literature and martial arts. Otherwise, he wouldn't have so many young ladies admiring him. It's just that such a Xie family was ultimately a thorn in the royal family's side. The Xiongnu invaded, and Xie Ding led his troops to war. General Xie, who had dominated the battlefield his entire life, was finally defeated. At Xie Ding's funeral, the people of Ding capital all came to see him off, and the entire country was in mourning. But for the royal family, this was a great taboo. So, not long after, the young Xie Jingxing was appointed to go on an expedition in his father's place. Although he knew there was something suspicious about Xie Ding's death, he still accepted the imperial edict, and the result was failure. That day, his military strength was exposed, making him a target for the enemy, and his end was being pierced by 10,000 arrows. Perhaps a flash of pity appeared in her eyes. He suddenly looked back. Shun Miao lowered her head, feigning shyness. Suddenly, Kai Lin emerged from the crowd, holding a small package, and handed it to Xie Jingxing, saying respectfully, Young Marquis, this is the last copy of the medical book you instructed me to find. Seeing his attitude, she thought in surprise. Just a moment ago, he was a little tyrant baring his fangs at me. Yet he's so meek and submissive towards Xie Jingxing Feng and Ning beside her curiously whispered, What do you think of the young Marquis compared to His Highness Prince Ding? Shun Miao was stunned for a moment, not used to Feng and Ning's sudden friendliness, but she still answered truthfully, young Marquise, yeah, is a cut above. She was startled, and after a long moment, she teased, it seems you really have had your heart broken. She couldn't be bothered to explain, her face turning pensive. If the Xie family fell, the Shun family would also face a terrible disaster. The two families had an interdependent relationship, which would give the Shun family an additional advantage. Her eyes lit up as if she had thought of something. Perhaps something could be done with the Xie family. The scene changes to a tavern. Xie Jingxing walked inside and slowly took off his outer robe. He threw the large package he was holding. The young master in white, Gao Yang, a descendant of a family of divine physicians, caught it and smiled. Thank you. He quickly picked up a cup of tea to enjoy, his tone filled with disgust as he said, don't come to me for this kind of thing anymore. As if understanding the situation, Gao Yang teased, it seems you were surrounded by people again. Someone with your temperament should go out more often. Who knows, you might meet a lovely young lady. You're at the right age. Why are you so lonely all day? Xie Jingxing was used to his outwardly proper but inwardly boring nature and glanced at him impatiently. But in his mind, he remembered Shun Miao's eyes, like those of a small animal. Why did he always feel a sense of pity and helplessness in that gaze? He suddenly smiled unconsciously. Truly interesting. Gao Yang found it strange and asked curiously, what are you thinking about? He said irritably, none of your business. It was already dark when she and her two maids returned to the west courtyard of the Shun residence. As they neared the courtyard, a friendly voice called out, young miss is finally back. This old servant heard that you fell into the water and was worried to death. Tilting her head, she saw a middle-aged woman walking towards her. She was about 40 years old, plump, with a slightly dark complexion. It turned out to be a servant of the Shun family, Gue Momo. She felt that she was still the same as usual. She continued, Rana has been sick and hasn't recovered yet. I could only leave Rana with his mother. Now that I see young miss is healthy, I can rest assured. She thought these words would move her, but she didn't know that she had been reborn and had seen through the ways of the world. She felt a little annoyed, thinking, seeing the situation clearly, she didn't hesitate to rely on the east courtyard. To say this was truly sarcastic. Shen Miao replied indifferently, oh, then it must have been hard on Gue Momo. Once disloyal, always useless. Moreover, she was the main culprit who ruined her elder brother Shen Qiu's reputation for a lifetime. Did she think she could clean up so easily? Gue Momo smiled awkwardly. She didn't understand why the young miss was so cold to her today. Thinking about Shun Miao falling into the water, her mood wasn't good, so she smiled and advised, this old servant advises young miss not to be too sad. Young miss is as beautiful as a flower. His Highness Prince Ding will surely like you. As soon as she said this, she saw Shun Miao's expression change. These words of Gue Momo, are you trying to tarnish my innocence? She retorted sharply, fine, why don't we go to the old madam and ask clearly if the innocence of the general's residence's daughters is as cheap as cabbage. Gue Momo was stunned. She instinctively said, young Mrs. Words truly wrong this old servant. This old servant has been by young Mrs. side for 10 years. How could I tarnish young Mrs. innocence? Jingzhi beside her couldn't bear it anymore and spoke up for her. Insolent. Young miss is the master. Gue Momo. How dare you speak to young miss like that? Gue Momo was shocked and also annoyed at her own agitation just now. She softened her tone and said, it was all this old servant's fault just now. This old servant has followed young miss for many years and has long regarded young miss as my own daughter. Young miss, don't be angry anymore. If you get angry and harm your body, it won't be good. She walked away coldly, her tone indifferent as she replied, since Gue Momo knows her mistake, then you'll just be fined 3 months' wages. The corners of her lips lifted. Without money, what would Gue Momo do? Of course, she would go to the east courtyard to show her loyalty. The scene changes to Kai Yun courtyard. Ren Wan Yun sat majestically on a chair and called Gue Momo. She replied smartly, Madam, this old servant is here. She asked majestically, I heard you've returned. Now that young miss has just recovered, you need to take good care of her. Young miss is probably in a bad mood because she fell into the water. No matter what I do, it's always wrong. If I want to hear any news, I have to hear it from you. Gue Momo quickly replied, Madam's concern for 5th young miss is her good fortune. But after this fall into the water, 5th young miss's temperament has changed a lot, and she has become distant towards this old servant. Ren Wan Yin was a little impatient listening to her beat around the bush and said, then what you think Gue Momo has fifth young Miss's attitude towards His Highness Prince Ding changed? She covered her mouth and slowly said, fifth young Miss seems to want to cut off ties with His Highness Prince Ding. Today, she even forbade this old servant from mentioning him. But this old servant understands young Miss's temperament. I'm afraid that regarding His Highness Prince Ding, young Miss will not give up easily. Words spoken in anger cannot be taken seriously. As soon as she finished speaking, a vicious look appeared on Ren Wanyun's face. She generously signaled for a maid to bring silver, which made her laugh so hard she couldn't close her mouth. Thank you, madam. Then this old servant will take my leave. After Gae Momo left, Shenqing stepped out from behind the screen. She asked angrily, Mother, Shen Miao refuses to give up on His Highness Prince Ding. What should I do? She quickly reassured her, don't worry, in this Shen residence, no one can surpass you. She walked to the middle and leaned close to Ren Wanyun, who comforted her. Shen Miao is a fool, not worth worrying about. Mother has her ways. As for you, pay close attention to the second young miss in Shui courtyard. Shen Qing frowned. Shen Yu, she also likes His Highness Prince Ding. How can that be? Besides, third uncle is not like eldest uncle. He has no say. She replied calmly, your third aunt is very formidable. Back then, she and third uncle, seemingly realizing that these words shouldn't be said in front of child, Ren Wanyun fell silent and only said, in short, you don't need to worry about that fifth wench. Mother will have a way. At the same time, in Shui courtyard, Chen Ruo Chio was sitting at a desk writing. Shen Yu stood behind her and asked curiously, Mother, why did you say that to Gue Momo just now? Isn't that making Shen Miao determined to marry His Highness Prince Ding? Chen Ruo Chio stopped her brush and sighed softly. What do you think of Shen Miao? Shen Yu thought for a moment and replied, she doesn't know how to discuss books. She is not proficient in zither, chess, calligraphy, or painting. Her personality is timid and foolish. If it weren't for eldest uncle's reputation protecting her, I'm afraid no one would care about her. Chen Ruo Chio shook her head, but this time after falling into the water, I see she has changed a lot. Perhaps she was struck by Prince Ding. If you also have feelings for His Highness Prince Ding, then why focus only on Shen Miao? She slowly put down her brush and continued, smart women don't fight with women, they fight with men. She even turned to pat Shen Yu's head and reminded her, listen to Mother, not only should you not distance yourself from Shen Miao, but you must also be friends with her as before. You must study hard. The more outstanding you become, the more foolish she will appear. That way, even if the whole world wants His Highness Prince Ding to marry Shen Miao, as long as you are in his heart, you will be the winner. Shen Yu seemed to understand a little and replied, Mother, I understand. The next day, at Guang Wentang, Shen Miao was walking and thinking casually. After distancing herself from Shen Yu and Shen Qing, Gue Momo repeatedly came to advise me not to confront the East Courtyard, and then would definitely praise Prince Ding. That was nothing. I just scolded her a bit. She looked into the distance with some worry. On the contrary, the unruly servants in the West Courtyard that the second and third household stuffed in, I think I should find a way to deal with them. Her eyes suddenly widened, as if she had discovered something. It turned out she saw a small child sitting on the steps, crying his eyes out. The boy was a few years old, his body a bit overly chubby, looking like a meatball at a glance. She immediately walked over and asked softly, Why are you crying, little brother? The little boy didn't expect someone to suddenly approach, and was so scared that with a thud, he fell down the steps. He stopped crying and sat up, staring at Shen Miao. She couldn't help but burst out laughing. The little boy, in an angry, sniffling voice, called out, Big sister. She squatted down, patted his head, and asked, What are you crying about? Her eyes filled with sorrow as she recalled. Seeing you like this, I can't help but think of Wan Yu and Fu Ming Lai. The little boy pouted and held out his hand, revealing a red mark on his palm, and said aggrievedly, The teacher asked me a question, and I couldn't answer it. So he hit my palm. It hurts a lot. Shen Miao wanted to tease him a little, so she asked, What question did the teacher test you on? The little boy sobbed and said, The 4 characters for when the rabbit dies. The fox grieves, but I couldn't write them. If my father finds out when I get home, he will definitely scold me terribly. I might as well just bang my head and die. Woo-woo. She was surprised by the boy's tragic tone. She was both annoyed and amused, thinking, I wonder which family taught such a dramatic child. She asked, which family are you from? Hearing this, the little boy couldn't help but calm down and stated his origin, word by word. I'm the second young master of the Ping Nan Earl's residence in the capital, Su Ming Lang. My father is the Ping Nan Earl, Su Yu. My older brother is the heir of the Ping Nan Earl, Su Ming Feng. Hearing this, she was stunned. The Su family, Ping Nan Earl. She frowned and recalled. The Su family was a great clan that managed the military horses with a very high status, but they were extremely loyal to the royal family. The Su family and the Shun family had no connection. But the Ping Nan Earl, Su Yu, and the Marquis of Linen, Xie Ding, were very close brothers. Su Ming Feng and Xie Jingxing played together since childhood. Their relationship was very good, so close that after Su Ming Feng died, only Xie Jingxing dared to go and collect his body. That's right, Su Ming Feng died, or rather, the entire Su family was exterminated. The late emperor found evidence of the Su family's corruption and illegal trading of military horses. An imperial edict was issued. In broad daylight, troops were led to confiscate their property and execute them on the spot. The blood of the Su family flowed from the east of Ding capital to the west of Ding capital. None of those who were once close dared to show up. In the end, it was Xie Jingxing who personally came to collect the bodies of the Su family's masters. She felt a bit of pity, covered her mouth, and confirmed again. Su Ming Feng, is he the heir of the Su family who just achieved a great merit and is very good at managing military horses? The little boy puffed out his chest and replied innocently, yes, father said that this time the emperor will definitely reward my big brother. She fell silent, lost in thought. The fall of the Su family. There are only 2 months left, very soon. Since ancient times, serving a monarch is like being with a tiger. Loyalty cannot always be exchanged for the royal family's favor. She slowly stood up and said, didn't you say that if your father knew you couldn't answer the teacher's question, he would punish you? I have a way. Do you want to hear it? The little boy asked eagerly. What is it? Shin Miao put a finger to her lips and set a condition. But you have to promise me not to let anyone know I told you. Only then will I tell you. The scene changes to the Ping Nan Earl's residence. Su Yu said confidently to his son, in my opinion, His Majesty will definitely grant you an official position this time. Now that the Xiongnu are restless, the strength of the military horses is even more important. Ming Feng, as long as you are valued by His Majesty, our Su family will go further and further in the future. He replied, yes. After speaking, he slowly sipped his tea. Suddenly, a servant's voice reported, Master, the second young master is back. Su Ming Lang timidly poked his head in and called, Father, big brother. He asked sternly, Ming Lang, were your studies good today? The little boy honestly held out his reddened hand and replied, not good at all. The heir of the Ping Nan Earl, Su Ming Feng, saw this and asked with heartache, why did that teacher hit so hard? He's just a child. But he flew into a rage and questioned, it's because you all pity him all day that he's become so spoiled. What did you do wrong today? The little boy lowered his head and recounted. The teacher told me to copy the 4 characters for when the rabbit dies, the fox grieves, but I couldn't write them. Hearing this, he scolded angrily. You tell me what good you are, you can't even write. Your big brother was already learning military strategy at your age. The little boy, with the courage of a lion, fluently retorted, although I couldn't write those 4 characters, I could write the 6 characters for when the cunning rabbit dies, the hunting dog is boiled. That's 2 more characters. Hearing this, he wanted to pass out. Nonsense. Su Ming Feng squatted down to explain. The meaning is not the same. When the rabbit dies, the fox grieves means the rabbit is dead, and the fox feels sad thinking its fate will be the same. When the cunning rabbit dies, the hunting dog is boiled means the rabbit is dead, and the hunting dog used to hunt, it is no longer valuable and will be cooked. It's closer in meaning to kicking away the ladder after climbing up. The little boy cleverly argued back. In the end, the rabbit is dead. Doesn't this mean that as long as the rabbit is dead, both the fox and the dog are unlucky? If everyone is unlucky, what's the difference in the meaning of the words? Suddenly, Su Yu was stunned in thought. The rabbit is dead. His face darkened as he gnashed his teeth and calculated. When the cunning rabbit dies, the hunting dog is boiled. Who is that hunting dog? What is the fate of the dog that helps its master hunt the rabbit? 2 months later, at the Ping Nan Earl's residence. In a room, Xie Jingxing asked in surprise. Avert disaster? Su Mingfeng looked at his good friend and sighed. That's right, the Su family has lasted for several generations. When it comes to military horses, it's really not advisable to advance to the forefront. He reminded him, you just achieved a great merit. He frowned and continued. It is precisely because I achieved merit that my father and I were both somewhat complacent, but to rise further in merit is to court disaster. Now, I will tell the outside world that I am seriously ill and must recuperate at home. It's still not too late to wake up now. Xie Jingxing nodded. That's a good way to do it. Su Mingfeng said, if I don't become an official, what can he do to me? What about you? The Su family and the Xie family rise and fall together. Since the Su family has decided to wake up, what about your Xie family? He frowned and replied, the Xie family is now a marquis of linen. He always has to be wary of public opinion. Xie Jingxing asked curiously, but how did you suddenly think this through? I reminded you several times before, but you never took it to heart. He lowered his head in shame. I was too complacent before. The reason I thought so much this time is all thanks to that sentence from my second brother. The room suddenly fell silent for a moment. Xie Jingxing, who had been lazily leaning back in his chair, sat up straight upon hearing this, a strange light flashing in his eyes. This is the second younger brother you mentioned, the little kid. Just then, a childish voice was heard. Eldest brother, mother told me to bring you some pastries. Su Mingfeng nodded and said, right, if it weren't for my second younger brother's mistake this time, there might have been a great disaster. He let out a sound of surprise, startling the little boy. Su Minglang walked over, carrying a plate with a purple flower pattern holding delicate rock sugar cakes. The boy was a little intimidated by Xie Jingxing, so he placed it on the table and said quickly, eldest brother, I'll be going now. He turned to run, but was unexpectedly grabbed by the collar. Xie Jingxing got straight to the point and asked, who taught you that saying? The boy's eyes widened. Well, what? He smiled wickedly and repeated, boil the hound once the rabbit is caught. Back at Guangwen Hall, the weather was getting colder. The students of the academy began preparing for the end-of-month exams. This was something students had to do every year. The men for the sake of their careers, the women to display their virtue. Feng and Ning, sitting beside her, asked, why aren't you reading? The end of the month is almost here. If you end up at the bottom again, won't you be a laughingstock? She replied indifferently, since I don't understand it anyway, why waste the time? Ipe Lan, who was nearby, heard these words and burst out laughing, adding sarcastically, mud can't be plastered on a wall. Shen Yu was talking with Shun Qing and pretended not to hear, so she didn't help her out. Shen Miao acted as if she hadn't heard Ipe Lan's words. She stood up, her tone still normal as she said, I'm going for a walk in the garden. After she left, the girl pouted and said she ran away because she had nothing to say, as timid as a mouse. Feng and Ning frowned. Have you had enough? Have you finished your homework? On the other side, Shan Miao slowly walked into the garden. Guangwen Hall was an elegant place. She breathed in the faint fragrance of the forest trees. It was still better to be alone, forgetting about Lung Qing Qing and Kong Luo Luo. Like bickering children, whether it was ridicule or mockery, she couldn't be bothered to deal with it. After walking a little further, she saw a familiar chubby figure. She walked over and called out softly, Su Minglang. The boy heard her and hurriedly turned his head. The boy looked at her and pouted, wanting to say something but not daring to. Soon after, his eyes reddened and his lips trembled as he said, I'm sorry. She was completely baffled. Sorry? Then, a lazy voice sounded, surprising her. So it's you. She reluctantly turned her gaze to him. Stepping out from the bamboo grove was the aloof face of Xie Jingxing. He stopped in front of Shen Miao. Su Minglang, terrified, scrambled away. For his life, he slowly walked over to observe her. Shen Miao glanced at him without a word. Xie Jingxing's lips curved into a smile, an exquisite short blade appearing in his hand at some point. He used the hilt to lift her chin up. She took a deep breath and stepped back to avoid it, letting the hilt leave her chin, then said gently, Young Marquis Xie. Xie Jingxing smiled, his tone unreadable as he asked, You know me? Shen Miao replied calmly, There is no one in the capital who does not know the great name of young Marquis Xie. He glanced at her and continued to ask, But I don't recognize you. Was it you who told Su Minglang to pass a message to the Su family? Was it? She chuckled softly. Pass a message? It was just teaching him how to avoid being scolded by his father, a mere diversion. Young Marquis, don't overthink it. He mulled over her words. Overthink? Suddenly, he stepped forward and questioned. If I didn't overthink it, I would have been fooled by you. She asked with a hint of impatience. Young Marquis Xie is interrogating me. What exactly do you want? Xie Jingxing stared intently at Shen Miao. He thought suspiciously. Her words were calm. Her eyes showed no panic, and she didn't avoid his gaze at all. He placed a hand on the dry tree behind Shen Miao, leaned in very close to her, and asked, "Aren't you afraid of me?" Shen Miao said calmly, "The young Marquis is not a man-eating monster. What is there to be afraid of?" She moved aside and said, "If there is nothing else, then I will return to the academy." His incomprehensible gaze followed her. Looking at Shen Miao's retreating back, Xie Jingxing asked, "Reminding the Su family, what was your purpose?" She turned back and answered honestly, "Nothing else, just to protect myself." After she left, Xie Jingxing smirked slightly, twirling the short blade in his hand. Scene changed to the Marquis of Linen's residence. Xie Jingxing strode elegantly to his study. Outside, an attendant pushed the door open, carrying a snow-white porcelain bowl, and said, "Lotus seed porridge stewed by concubine Fong. She said it has been stewing for several hours for the master to eat and warm his body." He said coldly, "Throw it out." The attendant, used to this, acknowledged and withdrew. Just outside, he ran into gossiping maids. "Why is everything sent by concubine Fong thrown out without the master ever touching it?" The person next to her whispered the story. "You knew, so you don't know." The master's biological mother, the Marquise, was formerly Princess Yuqing, the late emperor's most favored. She was also deeply cherished by the Marquis. Unfortunately, the Marquis eventually took a concubine, the current second Mistress Fong. But there was no other way, as her father had done a great favor for the Marquis of Linen. Although the princess was upset, she was kind-hearted by nature and never resorted to underhanded tactics to harm anyone. She continued, "The mama who had served the princess since her marriage wanted to help her mistress relieve her sorrow, so she tried to drive Mistress Fong away on her own. Who knew that she would fail and be discovered by the Marquis? From then on, he grew distant, and Princess Yuqing fell into a depression, her health deteriorating day by day. Just as the Marquis was about to visit her, he suddenly received an imperial edict to go on a military campaign. This departure meant he couldn't see the princess one last time. The maid said, perhaps out of guilt towards Princess Yuqing, the Marquis of Linen poured all his efforts into the master. However, not only was the master ungrateful, but he also harbored resentment towards both concubine Fong and his own father. The other person nodded in understanding. So that's how it is. At this time, Xie Jingxing was still lost in thought in his study. Suddenly, a person appeared and reported respectfully, "Master, the investigation is complete. The fifth young miss of the first branch of the general's residence, the legitimate daughter of Shun Exin, Shen Miao." He frowned slightly. Shen Exin? The Shun and Xie families have always minded their own business. For a girl from the Shun family to suddenly show goodwill, there is clearly something suspicious. He slowly put the book down on the table. He ordered in a cold tone, "Continue investigating." A few days later, in the west courtyard of the Shun residence, Bai Lu was quite cheerful, chattering incessantly as she walked with her. "I didn't expect the chrysanthemum banquet to be so soon. Doesn't young Miss love the chrysanthemum banquet? You'll get to see the flowers again. The tailor is coming today to take measurements for the chrysanthemum banquet dress. Young Miss must choose carefully." She smiled and thought, "This year, the Guangwen Hall examination coincides with the chrysanthemum banquet, so they've been combined into one. The only difference from other years is that this examination has turned into a grand public banquet exclusively for noble families." In just a moment, they arrived at Vingjing Hall. She entered with her maids. Ren Wanyan looked at her and said with a smile, "Fifth girl, come quickly and choose. In a little while, Mistress Li will come to take your measurements." Shen Qing also spoke enthusiastically. "Second sister and I have already chosen. We were just waiting for you to pick." Shen Yu held up a piece of fabric and suggested, "Fifth sister has fair skin. Why not choose this light yellow outfit?" Shen Qing also nodded repeatedly. "That's right. Looking at the remaining fabrics, perhaps only the light yellow one suits fifth sister the best." Her face turned sad. Shen Miao recalled, "In my past life, at the chrysanthemum banquet, I followed their advice and wore the light yellow outfit. It looked both cheap and gaudy, and with all the flashy gold jewelry I wore, I looked no different from a landlord's daughter." As her heart was filled with emotion, she suddenly saw a man in ornate clothes walk up to a pot of chrysanthemums. His hand lifted a flower and gently stroked it. She asked in confusion, "Ninth brother, what's there to see in such a wilted and dreary cluster of flowers?" He smiled and replied, "It's a pity that it's weak and has no one to rely on. How pitiful." Her thoughts choked her, and it was at that chrysanthemum banquet that I developed feelings for Fu Xiaoyi, who shared the same sentiment. Shen Miao lowered her eyes, thinking in disappointment. How ridiculous. Then she pointed to a piece of green fabric and said, "No need, I'll choose this one." Looking at the unremarkable fabric, they asked in confusion, "Fifth girl, why would you choose this color?" Ren Wan Yin tactfully interjected, "A girl should wear bright and vibrant colors. This one seems a bit too old." But in her heart, she was worried about the Shun family's reputation. Even if I want her to lose face, this lotus green color is really too much. If outsiders see it, I'm afraid it will affect the Shun family's reputation. Her two cousins, however, were laughing inwardly. Shen Qing spoke up. "I think lotus green is quite beautiful. Fifth sister has never worn it before. It's good to try." Shen Yu, beside her, added with a honeyed tongue but a venomous heart, "If I hadn't already chosen my fabric, I would have wanted to try this lotus green color once too." The matter of the fabric settled, she reached for a wooden box. Then she warmly presented it and said, "Since fifth sister has decided, your second aunt can't say much. But a daughter of the Shan family cannot be looked down upon when she goes out. So I have prepared some jewelry for you all, which you can use on the day of the chrysanthemum banquet." Shen Miao's wooden box was heavy. The woman looked at her, her tone extremely affectionate. "Your second aunt has seen that you've been busy preparing for the exam lately. Since you didn't have time, I prepared them for you, all in the most beautiful styles." She replied politely, "Thank you, second aunt." Above them, the old madam frowned and glared, but only said coldly, "If there is nothing else, everyone may leave." Leaving that suffocating place, she returned to the west courtyard. Shen Miao ordered, "This jewelry, take it to be pawned." Bai Lu didn't say much and obediently complied. "Yes, young miss." She recalled her gaudy appearance from before, a flicker of resentment in her eyes. "It was just a few gold hairpins and gold necklaces. Wearing them made me look like a walking jewelry box, a laughingstock for the world." Thinking this, she turned back and added, "While you're at it, buy a silver hairpin. It doesn't need to be too beautiful, just as long as it has a pattern." Yes, looking at the sparkling jewelry from before, she calculated, "This jewelry is of no use to me anyway. It's better to exchange it for some real silver. It will be more convenient for things later." Shen Miao remembered that all the money in the residence was managed by Ren Wan Yun, which was why she couldn't be as generous as her two older sisters. Even though she knew that much of it was money her parents had earned with their lives, they still treated her so harshly. She was determined. "I must find a way to separate our finances." Finally, the day of the chrysanthemum banquet arrived. Early in the morning, the Shun residence was bustling with joy. A maid carefully combed Shen Miao's hair. "Young miss, you look truly beautiful in this outfit." She looked at herself in the mirror. Her round, lovely face also had a touch of elegance. She finally had the air of a young lady. Shuang Jiang, beside her, immediately hesitated a little, only that her hairstyle looked a bit simple. Zhu Yu, afraid of hurting her feelings, quickly changed the subject. "Although it's simple, Mistress Li's craftsmanship is truly excellent. Young miss is so beautiful today." Shen Miao said nothing. She lowered her eyes and said, "Let's go." Arriving at the gate of the Shun residence, they saw two carriages already waiting there. Ren Wan Yin stuck her head out and questioned, "Fifth girl, why are you dressed so simply?" Shen Qing also spoke urgently. "This really won't do. Fifth sister, come to my room and change your clothes." Shen Yu meticulously sized her up. She smiled and added, "Fifth sister, not to mention the clothes, you must wear jewelry. After all, it's about the face of our residence." She cut her off, putting on a sorrowful expression. "There's no need. There's a reason I'm dressed like this today." Shen Miao bowed her head slightly, her voice softer as she said, "I also really like the jewelry second aunt gave me. I'm not deliberately not wearing it. Right now, father is fighting in the northwest. The soldiers are cold in their armor, while I am living comfortably in the capital. I truly feel ashamed." She continued her masterful performance. "Last night, a bodhisattva came to me in a dream and told me to pray with a sincere heart. Therefore, until father returns triumphantly, I will not wear colorful clothes or jewelry." Ren Wan Yun's face darkened, and she thought angrily, "If you say that, doesn't it make us, who have spent so much effort dressing up, A joke? Shinruachio couldn't stand it and gently advised. Even so, you're such a young girl. Why think so heavily? The chrysanthemum banquet is for relaxation. She suddenly performed a grand bow to the two of them. Please, second aunt, third aunt, understand Shun Miao's filial piety. They were standing in front of the Shun residence gate, with many passers-by. She continued to smile and said, "This carriage is full. Fifth girl, you can take the carriage behind. You'll be more comfortable alone." She smiled and curtsied, accepting her second aunt's arrangement. The chrysanthemum banquet was set up not far from the prince's residence. Especially in the 10th month of every year, chrysanthemums of all colors vied to show off their beauty. Scene changed to Yanbei Hall. Yi Peilon, beside several young ladies, smiled like a flower and asked, "Are you confident about today's examination?" Bai Wei replied worriedly, "Not at all. I just hope I don't get called on later and that no one nominates me to go on stage. I don't hope to stand out. I just pray I don't lose face." The girl pouted. "You're talking nonsense." Yi Peilon shook with laughter. "Bai Wei, don't be afraid. When it comes to losing face, don't we still have the fifth miss of the Shun family to fall back on?" Jiang Kai-Xian, hearing this, chimed in. "That's right. It's the same every year. Isn't the fifth miss of the Shun family always in charge of the comedy? I wonder what ridiculous outfit she'll wear this year." Feng and Ning suddenly spoke up to stop them. "That's enough. Is it fun to talk badly about others behind their backs?" Yi Peilon was stunned. She asked casually, "Feng and Ning, you've been really strange lately. What's wrong? Are you close with that fool?" Feng and Ning's face was furious, and she was about to speak when she heard someone on the other side say, "The ladies of the Shun family have arrived." Leading the way was Run Wanyun. She was already plump, and with her hair in a high bun, she exuded an air of wealth and dignity, very much like the matriarch of a great family. Accompanying her was Chun Ruachio. Although she had a grown child, she still looked like a young wife, gentle in her misty gauze dress and long cyan skirt. Behind them was Shun Yu in a pink gauze dress, her long hair styled in a flying immortal bun, adorned with a string of light pink pearls. Next to her was Shun Qing, wearing a cloud-like Rui dress and a smoky skirt, her hair in a 100-flower bun, her complexion exceptionally bright, and a jade bracelet on her wrist. The two of them were very young, one gentle, one generous, both adorned in luxury. They were already beautiful, and their silk clothes enhanced their beauty. They attracted the gazes of many young men, and one official couldn't help but praise. "The young ladies of the Shin family are truly beautiful," a captivated young man said. "Yes, seeing them today, they truly live up to their far-reaching fame." But Kai Lin, sitting beside him, said indifferently, "There's one more." His eyes gleamed with mockery. "The Shun family also has a daughter of General Shun. She is the real beauty." As soon as the words were spoken, the sight of her struck the entire Shun family, leaving them astonished. Shun Miao walked up from behind, wearing a dress with a large golden-threaded begonia embroidered on the skirt. With every step she took, the flowers seemed to bloom at her feet, a flower born with every step. As she moved, the lotus-green dress further accentuated her fair skin and her rippling eyes, a series of majestic and dignified qualities, exuding nobility and elegance. Her arrival at the end caused a stir among everyone. Yi Peilon muttered, "Who is that?" She couldn't help but be dazed. Such a captivating demeanor. Bai Wei also asked in a daze, "Is this a guest of the Shun family? I don't think I've ever seen her before." The young man from before said with excited eyes, "Is this General Shin's daughter? Her appearance is so beautiful. Her temperament is also so good. Truly a formidable younger generation." Kai Lin was stunned, thinking, "Shin Miao? How could it be Shin Miao?" The surrounding officials praised her endlessly. "She's so young, yet her demeanor is so outstanding. She truly cannot be underestimated in the future. Why didn't I ever notice before that Shin Miao was also such a peerless beauty?" "Yes, yes." In the crowd, Pei Lang stared at her in a daze. Shun Miao's gaze swept lightly over the men's seating area, pausing on him for a moment as she blinked. Pei Lang felt it and froze. It was that condescending gaze again. When he followed her gaze, Shun Miao had already moved to her seat. The Shun family began to sit down. "Madam," he said to Ren Wanyun with a smile, "the fifth young miss has changed so much lately. It seems she has become a young lady." The woman maintained her noble expression and replied, "That's right. She's not a child anymore." The old madam dotes on the fifth girl very much. She didn't forget to show off. This time, Before we left, she even told me to keep an eye out for a suitable match for her. Chen Ruoqiu, who was beside her, heard this. Her eyes flickered as she thought. It seems Ren Wanyun is in a hurry to settle Shun Miao's marriage before Shun Xian returns. Is it because the second branch also has its eyes on a prince? Her eyes were full of calculation, so she wants to clear this biggest obstacle for her own daughter. Thinking of this, she heard a commotion from the men's seating area. Prince Yu has arrived. Shin Miao's hand, holding a game piece, paused for a moment. She raised her eyes towards the men's section. It was the current emperor's biological younger brother. From a distance, a middle-aged man walked over, known as Prince Yu. He had a dark, thin, and fierce face, wearing a long brocade robe embroidered with pine patterns, extremely opulent, but unfortunately, he only had one leg. He did not sit with the officials or the young men, but on a specially arranged chair. She remembered clearly that in his youth, he had saved the emperor's life from assassins, but was injured in the process, leading to the amputation of his left leg. Since then, his personality had changed drastically. This prince Yu had a cruel and vicious temperament, and rumors about him in the marketplace were countless. His previous princess consort had also fallen ill and died only a few years after marrying into the residence. Recently, news suddenly spread from the prince's residence that Prince Yu intended to take a new consort. In her previous life, it was the old Shin madam who wanted to marry her off to this crippled, widowed prince who was now 42 years old. And at that time, she was infatuated with Fu Xiui and naively thought that marrying him was all that mattered. Thinking of this, she felt a pang of sorrow. Who would have thought that both paths were bottomless abysses? Shun Miao's gaze swept past Prince Yu and moved to Ren Wanyun, who was sitting with the other ladies. Sure enough, she saw Ren Wanyun's bright expression. Madam Yi, sitting opposite her, said, "His Majesty truly treats His Highness Prince Yu very well." She also wanted to help the woman and said with a smile, "That's right. Although he is a bit older, he is a caring and considerate person." Chen Ruoqiu, on the side, lowered her head and slowly ate her pastries, a strange smile on her lips. "I'm just afraid that no one can bear that kind of care. Whichever family is unfortunate enough to be saddled with this marriage will probably be pushing their daughter into a pit of fire." On this side, Shun Miao patiently placed each game piece, contemplating each move, step by step, as if not a single thought was on others. Suddenly, a voice sounded in her ear. Feng and Ning had appeared in front of her at some point. She suggested, "Hey, what's the fun in playing alone? How about a game with me?" Feng and Ning lowered her head to look at the game board. She had only spoken casually, but one look at Shun Miao's unfinished game piqued her interest. After examining it carefully for a while, she couldn't recognize the strategy and asked, "But what kind of game are you playing? I've never seen it before." She smiled and replied, "This isn't a game, it's a battle. Right now, there are no openings. Only when the pieces are placed can you see." Hearing this, Feng and Ning shivered. "What are you talking about? So mysterious." She didn't bother to explain and continued to make her move. She glanced over at the men's seating area. Prince Ding, Fu Xiui, was dressed in a gold-trimmed blue robe, his hair held by a jade crown, catching everyone's eye. He was naturally handsome. His demeanor was a bit cold, but he was approachable in his actions, not as arrogant as other princes. As he walked by, he caused gasps of admiration from the women's seating area. Shin Miao lowered her head, her hands clenched tightly, her fingers digging into her palms, the pain sharp and numbing. She swore to herself, "In my past life, you brought disaster upon me. In this life, I will make sure you die without a burial place." Her eyes were as sharp as a knife, wanting to rush over and tear him apart to avenge her family. Suddenly, Feng and Ning exclaimed, "What are you looking at? So it's the one in your heart." She glanced over, and the girl shrank back and said in a small voice, Actually, I don't really like him that much. How can there be someone so perfect in this world? Looking at him just feels unrealistic." The sound of drums rumbled, seeming to come from the horizon. The musicians also began to pluck the first notes on the zither. The heroic music could stir the patriotism of the young men, but in the end, they rarely had a good outcome. Once the bridge is crossed, it's burned. When a new ruler takes power, they will eliminate the old. Those stirring, heroic tunes would later become nothing but a funeral dirge urging death. Shun Miao gently waved her hand. The corner of her sleeve instantly brushed against the edge of the table, and the teacup fell with a thud. It would have been inaudible, but the entire hall was immersed in emotion, and the sound was like a single thread snapping on a beautifully woven tapestry, disrupting the rhythm of the music. The others stared at her. Feng and Ning leaned in and whispered in her ear, "Shen Miao, you're really good at causing trouble." She calmly bent down to pick up the porcelain shards on the ground and smiled. "Sorry, it slipped." After saying that, she maintained her elegant and calm demeanor as if nothing had happened. Yi Peilon sneered from a distance. "Haha, Shen Miao, as clumsy and hasty as ever." Bai Wei, beside her, also frowned in disapproval. How embarrassing. The musicians on the stage were flustered, while the audience below buzzed with chatter. Such a beautiful piece of music was interrupted just like that. The melody no longer seemed as majestic as before, sounding vaguely chaotic. It was as if some instrument could not keep up with the general rhythm. In the men's seating area, Fu Xiui looked over. Her beauty and temperament immediately caught his eye. Prince Zhou, Fu Xiuan, followed his gaze and said with a smile, "Ninth brother, are you looking at that young lady?" He even called out and asked, "Among us brothers, only ninth brother doesn't have a wife yet. Looking at that young lady, I wonder which family's daughter she is. Does anyone recognize her?" Pei Lang, standing not far away, heard this and replied, "She is the fifth young miss of the prestigious Grand General's residence, a student of mine." Prince Jing, Fu Xiufa, rubbed his chin and said thoughtfully, "Isn't that the legitimate daughter of General Shun Exine, Shen Miao? I think her name is Shen Miao." Fu Xiuan was surprised. How could it be Shen Miao? He said mockingly, "Not long ago, she jumped into a lake to pursue ninth brother, becoming a big joke in the capital. Besides, how could a useless person like Shen Miao be the same person as the young lady opposite us?" Now, Fu Xiui shook his head. "Fourth brother, please be careful with your words. I truly have no such intentions." His gaze rested on the woman in the lotus green dress in the distant women's seating area, and his heart was not without shock. They were not wrong. Shen Miao was a country bumpkin who loved to wear gaudy red and green clothes and was obsessed with wearing gold all over her body. But the person before her, dressed simply with a calm temperament like a gentle breeze, could this really be Shen Miao? At this moment, Feng and Ning, worried, pulled her shoulder and whispered, "Hey Shen Miao, the examination is about to start." She recalled that the Ming Qi examination had always been divided into 3 parts: drawing, choosing, and challenging. The draw was a part everyone had to participate in. The examiners would shuffle the order, and the lot drawn would determine the content of each person's test. Choosing was the second stage, where candidates could select a field they excelled in to perform on stage. For example, Shen Yu often chose to play the zither. As for Shen Qing, she chose calligraphy and calculation. The final stage was the challenge. The word challenge here didn't mean to choose, but to duel. Everyone could freely choose a student to be their opponent for a one-on-one competition in a specific subject, regardless of gender. Feng and Ning blinked her eyes. "May the heavens protect me. I only hope to draw literature or zither. I don't know Go or painting at all. Let someone else pray for those." As soon as she drew, she urgently opened it to see. Seeing the topic, she breathed a sigh of relief. It's zither. That's great. My diligent practice these past few days wasn't in vain." She turned to ask, "Shen Miao, what's yours?" But before she could look, it was snatched away by someone. After looking at it, Shen Yu said with false kindness, "Oh dear, fifth sister and I drew the same topic. But don't worry, we will help you a little." Hearing this, Yi Peilon stood up and sneered. "Shen Yu, why are you telling her these things? Let Shen Miao prepare carefully on her own." Shen Qing also chimed in, her words full of supposed goodwill as she asked, "What does fifth sister plan to draw? How about letting second sister give you some advice?" Yi Peilon continued to mock. Even with a great idea, she wouldn't be able to do it. Shen Miao replied icily, "If second sister helps me, wouldn't that be cheating? Cheating will get you expelled from the examination. Would second sister do that for me?" As she spoke these words calmly, Shen Yu's expression changed. She tried to suppress the venomous resentment in her heart, glanced at Shen Miao, and forced a smile, saying, "Since fifth sister has said so, I wouldn't dare to do a good deed on my own initiative anymore. So be it." Feng and Ning couldn't help but let out a sneer, deliberately raising her voice to mock. "I thought you loved your younger sister so much, but you backed down just from a little scare like that. So much for sincere help." For a moment, the other young ladies all looked at Shen Yu with deep, searching, and understanding gazes. This Shinyu really knew how to put on an act. Weren't they all young ladies of the Shin residence? To speak with such tension, could there be discord in their household? She gritted her teeth and called out, "Fifth sister." Shin Miao's voice was calm, without a ripple. Shouldn't second sister be thinking about what to draw next? As for me, there's no need. She reluctantly suppressed her emotions, gritting her teeth and saying, "If that's the case, then let's wait and see how my sister will shine later. It will surely be incredibly brilliant." On the stage, an official ceremoniously struck a gong loudly. The examination officially began. First was the zither. Feng and Ning was quite lucky. The young ladies who drew the zither today were all of average skill, while the good players were in other groups. She had unexpectedly gained an advantage and was certain to win first place. The second examination subject was Go. Ipei Lan was deep in thought, contemplating each move. The third examination subject was calligraphy, which was Shun Qing's specialty. Next was the painting group, with a total of 5 people. The theme was also chrysanthemums. After the signal, Shun Miao, along with Shun Qing and the other young ladies, stepped forward. The little dough ball, Su Ming Lang, suddenly got excited and pulled his older brother. "That beautiful big sister is up there too. Big brother, look, she will definitely win." Su Ming Feng, somewhat exasperated, reminded him, "Ming Lang, be a little quieter." Before going on stage, Shinyu finally couldn't resist teasing Shin Miao a bit. "Fifth sister," with such a confident expression, "you're making me a little scared." Fan Luer beside her asked softly, "Shinyu, what are you talking about? So confident. Could it be that Shin Miao has some secret trick?" Zhao Yin said with schadenfreude, "I remember last year Shan Miao drew the zither and ended up breaking a string. Let's hope she doesn't break her brush this year." Qin Qing seemed a bit impatient and snapped, "Why is it so noisy? If you want to argue, go up there and argue. Let everyone see your true faces." Shin Yu turned to instruct, "Fifth sister, you must not hold back later. I'll be waiting for you." She replied softly, "Definitely." Watching her seriously grinding the ink, everyone couldn't help but be astonished. Could it be that Shun Miao has really changed? Today, Shun Miao looks very proper. At a glance, it really seems to be the case. Someone refuted, "Impossible. She must be pretending. Look at her holding the brush without even thinking." Fu Xiaoyi frowned. Can a person really change so drastically? Moreover, Shun Miao like this, for some reason, reminds me of someone. He didn't notice the earth-shattering difference in Shun Miao from the past, but rather her posture, her straight back. Fu Xiaoyi could hardly suppress the horror in his heart. His face darkened as he uttered, "Very much like the aura of the current master of the 6 palaces. The Emperor, the time it takes for an incense stick to burn past," and the chief examiner signaled that time was up. Shinyu put down her brush, her suspicious gaze glancing at Shun Miao. She turned, walked to a place where no one could see, and found Gu Yu standing outside. She instructed, "Find a way to get this into the hands of the second young master of the palace administration office." She obeyed, replying, "This servant understands." Returning to her seat, looking towards Pei Lang, who was standing far away in the men's section, she thought silently, "I'm sorry, Pei Lang. This time, I have to borrow your hand to lay the foundation for the unshakable roots of the Ming-Chi imperial family. After all, you owe me." He seemed to notice her gaze and was slightly startled. At the same time, Feng and Ning asked impatiently, "Where did you go for so long?" "The results are out. My zither and Go group came in first. Also, Shun Qing won second place in the literature category. Now it's time to announce the results." Of the painting group, Shinyu had already raised her head high, confidently waiting for her name to be called. The examiner in charge of announcing the results on the stage called out in a loud voice, "First place in the painting group, Shin Miao." A single sentence, heavy as a 1,000-pound stone, thrown into a lake, stirred up turbulent waves. Everyone stood up in an uproar, even drowning out the sound of the examiner announcing the subsequent results. The smile on Shin Yu's face immediately froze. She looked at Chen Ruo Chio in disbelief, her voice trembling slightly. "Mother, who did he just say was first?" Kai Lin immediately stood up, looking at the classmate beside him. "Shun Miao, you must be kidding. Did I hear wrong? Or did that old man read it wrong?" Only the little dough ball, Su Minglang, cheered happily. "Look, big brother, I knew she would win." Below, discussions were still raging. On the stage, the examiner had unrolled the painting for everyone to admire and judge fairly, just like in the Go category. These were the paintings of the contestants. Everyone calmly examined them. Among the students, Fan Luer and Zhao Yin followed the same old path, an old style of painting. Qin Qing had a bit more creativity than those two. But Shen Yu's painting was so beautiful, yet she only got second place. Shen Yu's painting had a lofty artistic conception and even a poem inscribed on it. It was truly incomprehensible. On the stage, the examiner ordered two young attendants to unroll the painting. The noisy clamor fell silent. The deep red light of the setting sun fell upon a short sword, stuck in the gleaming yellow sand. Beneath the sword lay a withered white chrysanthemum. The chief examiner suggested, "Student Shen Miao, please come up and say a few words about the reason for painting this picture." Shen Qing smiled and said softly to Yi Pei Lan beside her, "I'm afraid she'll be exposed this time. Her painting technique is nothing special. The artistic conception was probably suggested by someone." Someone doubtfully chimed in, "I think so too. How could she suddenly become a talented lady? It must be to attract the attention of that certain person." On the stage, Shen Miao silently looked at the painting she had made. She slowly reached out her hand, caressing the painting before everyone's astonished eyes. "The reason for painting this picture is because my father once said that every year on the battlefield, countless heroes die in battle, falling in the desert. Wrapped in horsehide, their homes far away, they can only rest forever on the battlefield. There are no white chrysanthemums there. Chrysanthemums only bloom in the warmth of the capital. Here, there are feasts, songs, and dances, with no worries about food or clothing, but all of it is bought with the lives of the soldiers at the border." The sounds of discussion gradually died down. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Shen Miao. A few young ladies began to get emotional. She stood in the wind, her eyes clear, her words filled with spirit, as if in all of heaven and earth, only her words could be heard. Those sacrificed soldiers didn't even have a single white chrysanthemum, nor did they receive a proper memorial service. Their wives and children could only stay in their hometowns, wearing white chrysanthemums to send their longing. Everyone's ability to leisurely admire chrysanthemums today is all thanks to the brave soldiers guarding the frontiers. We can do nothing for them, only convey our feelings through brushstrokes to comfort the souls of heroes. Fu Xiuyi frowned. These words, at first glance, seemed to be mourning the soldiers, but in reality, they were praising their family's merits. If one day the imperial family were to treat the Shun family unjustly, then in the eyes of the great families, it would be a lack of virtue. Prince Yu's gaze was fixed intently on the girl above. After a moment, he suddenly gave a meaningful smile. "This young lady of the Shun family is truly interesting." Hearing this, Fu Xiuan thoughtfully asked, "Royal uncle, have you taken a liking to the young Miss Shen? I heard she was foolish and useless, but now it seems that's not the case. It would be quite interesting to have an aunt like her." Fu Xiu Fa also added, "Miss Shun is indeed quick-witted and talented. It's a good thing if royal uncle finds her suitable." Hearing this, he curled his lips into a cunning smile. Su Mingfeng glanced over worriedly. After the young ladies' group finished their examination, it would be the young men's turn. The young ladies in the women's section, after the intense examination, left their seats to rest. Feng and Ning followed beside Shen Miao. She stretched and praised, "We can finally go out and get some fresh air. Young miss, what you said just now was brilliant." She replied calmly, "You weren't bad either." She quickly waved her hand. "I'm going to get something from the carriage. You wait here." After she left, Guyu appeared and called, "Young Mississippi." She reported in a low voice, "It has been delivered into the hands of the young master of the Palace Administration Office. I bribed a young errand boy outside to ensure it was done safely." Shen Miao nodded, "Very good." Just then, a soft chuckle was heard. Both of them looked up. Who is it? A hand span from the treetop. The corner of a purple robe was seen fluttering down. It was Xie Jingxing. He leaned lazily against a dry tree with his arms crossed, a mysterious smile on his face as he looked at her.